Hey, what's up everybody? Tarafdar back with a brand new video. Today we're going to talk about identity theft credit sweeps. This is one of the most common topics that I've seen people search on YouTube, ask questions about, and are very confused about this whole thing. And the reason I want to break this down for you is because you guys know for the type of content that I create and reference to how I do my own credit repair and the ones of my customers, I use a different methodology. I call it the CDR sweep. And if you're not really sure of what that is, I actually left a video link in the description, so check it out. And of course, in the comments section as well. Now, what is identity theft credit sweep? So stay tuned. I'm going to break down everything in reference to how dangerous it is, the potential long-term threats, and exactly what can happen to you if you don't follow the ethical standards, and why it can actually potentially ruin your entire credit future if you don't pay careful attention to it. Stay tuned. What's up everybody, Tarafdar here with a brand new video. Today we're going to talk about identity theft credit sweeps. This is one of the most dangerous things in the credit repair realm. See, a lot of people want shortcuts. They want results. They want to get results fast. They don't want to wait. They're impatient. Now, the identity theft credit sweep is one of those things that is potentially extremely dangerous if you don't pay attention to exactly what you have to do. The reason I tell you this is because a lot of people go through credit repair, and when they go through credit repair, they rely on illegal tactics and put a blindfold over it, pretending like they don't know what's going on. But the reality is you have to know exactly what's being done to your personal profile so that you can avoid the potential risks and dangers when it comes to future borrowing, because credit is evergreen. You always need to use credit. So in this video, I'm going to break down the dangers of identity theft credit sweeps. And a lot of people won't tell you that that's the strategy that they're using. But you need to ask the questions. You need to be aware, educated, and informed about the process so that when you're actually hiring a professional when it comes to credit repair, or at least thinking or considering of onboarding a professional to help you with your personal credit, you can appropriately decide what is the right choice for you. So with that said, what is identity theft credit sweep? Well, the simple process of identity theft credit sweep is very easy to understand. What an individual does on your behalf, or potentially yourself, is you create a false police report. This police report claims identity theft. Identity theft essentially means that your credit profile has been stolen. Your information, your personal information has been stolen, and individuals out there created credit cards and essentially applied for funding on your name and your behalf in order to access those credit accounts so that they can use it for their fraudulent purposes. And you racked up a bill, and then now all of a sudden it's on your credit profile, and you're looking at it without being aware of what's going on, and you're confused and you're concerned at the same time. So what you do is you contact the credit reporting agencies and you ask them, hey, what happened here? I never applied for these type of cards or funding. Why am I getting all this information on my profile? And the credit bureaus advise you, hey, all you have to do is file a police report claiming identity theft. Here's a website that you can go to, identity theft government website. And then also don't forget to file an affidavit of truth and facts that are essentially under oath and sworn testimony, which can perjure yourself if you lie about it. So that's the basis of identity theft, right? So when you submit all this information, which would include a police report, a broken down statement of facts through an affidavit, and you send it to the credit reporting agencies, what they do is they immediately stop all the accounts that are there from listing. They put a freeze on your credit profile, a security freeze, which is they lock your credit file, and then they remove all the negative items. But at the same time, they actually forward your affidavit as well as your police report to all the creditors that are listed there to verify the claim of identity theft. Now imagine this. Imagine you got in a situation where you're hiring a credit repair expert to help you in these type of situations and circumstances. And this credit repair expert who says, I'm going to help you with your credit profile, I'll do a credit sweep, I'll get all your stuff cleaned up, is actually filing a false police report on your behalf or asking you to do so, is actually claiming identity theft by creating a document which is asking you to notarize with all the false information that's there, which in fact it shouldn't, because it's a sworn testimony. And you're listening to that so-called expert and you're doing all these type of things, and you have all this document set, and now you send it to the credit reporting agencies, or perhaps they're doing it for you in most cases. What happens next? This is the most dangerous part that I really want you guys to get. What happens next is, if it was lied in that statement, if the creditors get wind that you knew in fact it is you who used those credit cards and have defaulted and failed to pay your obligations, you created a false police report, which is a public record, essentially, and the database is not going to show public, but it is a record that is available publicly for law enforcement and government agencies. And now all of a sudden, they get wind that you actually lied about all this, or the person who's representing you to fix your credit is lying about all this information. What happens next? What do you think in a scenario that's ideal for creditors to claim those funds is going to happen next? Well, let's put it this way. First and foremost, when you lie under an affidavit, it is called perjury, right? You're entitling yourself to maximum punishment for perjury. Essentially, you can end up in prison for 2 years and up to a couple of $1 million in fines, when whatever is feasible for the creditors to be able to collect their claim, and the punitive and administrative penalties for having lied so. It is a criminal offense. Not only will you have a criminal record on your file for doing so, but you also end up in prison, which is obviously not a really good place to be, especially if you're trying to restore your credit. So that's the first threat, right? Let's say the best case scenario. The best case scenario is the creditors decide to sue you for it. And they say, well, look, you are the one that is using these cards and these debt amounts, and you racked it up, and we have proof of that. And they take you to court and they bring up statements. They have proof of certified statements that you're the one who used it. You're the one who got the Amazon delivery, or that FedEx delivery, or that UPS delivery. You're the one at that gas station, which conveniently the creditor had an affidavit and a subpoena to be able to collect security tape to show that you were the one that was swiping those cards in the counter. All these type of things is potentially going to happen. Why? Because it's in their best interest to make sure that they're whole. In addition to not only making sure that you pay their debts back, they're going to charge you their legal fees, which you have to be responsible for, unless, of course, you have liability insurance, which in fact is too late by that time. So there's a lot of dangers. Now, we talked about best case, we talked about worst case. So you have to be careful when it comes to identity theft credit sweeps. A lot of people don't really realize that that's some of the directions that they can actually head themselves to. And if that's the case, what are you going to do about it? How do you get out of a situation like that? And if you're looking to hire, professionals who want to do shortcuts like these, you have to reconsider that strategy. Based on what I just explained to you, identity theft credit sweep is not going to help you. And how do you determine if somebody is actually going to deploy that tactic? Well, it's in your duty and responsibility to figure it out. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to ask that individual what their intent is. You need to ask them, hey, when we talk about this credit sweep, what specifically are you doing for me? Can you explain? And by explaining, can you explain to me the strategy that you plan on deploying? How long will it take? What's the guarantee that this is not going to be an illegal strategy that I don't have to worry about recourse? Am I going to be protected? Is my personal data going to be jeopardized? These are some of the responsible questions that you need to ask the representative that you're planning on hiring to help you fix your credit. Because if you don't, the outcome is going to be very dangerous. So once you've taken that responsibility to figure it out, once you've taken the privilege of understanding exactly the strategy that they're going to deploy, it's up to you to make a decision on whether or not you are willing to sacrifice your file for a person who doesn't necessarily want anything in your best interest but a little bit of revenue for them in their pocket, right? That's the outcome at the end of the day. So the reason I'm educating you on this also at the same time is because I want you guys to fix your credit the right way. Why is this so important? Well, if you look at the economy today, the way things are with all this global issue and the pandemic, there's a huge crisis. And financial crisis is one of the biggest things that actually makes or breaks an economy. And if you're having household issues with finances, the last thing you want to do is you cripple your credit ability, which is your secondary backup plan in case you don't have the cash or dry powder in your bank. So if you don't pay attention to this, and if you don't focus on keeping your credit pristine and clean, and ethically build those relationships over time so that the banks can favor you when it comes to underwriting, so that you're not just another person applying for credit, you really need to pay attention to how you're doing things, especially when it comes to fixing your credit. So I hope that this video really informed you on the dangers of identity theft credit sweep, why I don't believe in them, but more importantly, let's go over a very basic sample of what are some of the ethical standards of a proper sweep. And I tell you this in more description and detail and more elaborately on the link in the video in the description. And as there was a comment section, so you can actually check out that video. So feel free to do that after you watch this. But the simple steps are very easy to implement, and you can do this yourself without the need to hire anybody. And if you decide to hire somebody, well, consider going through the Ultimate Personal Credit Mastery course. It's a lot more advanced. There's a lot more strategies that you can deploy. At least be educated prior to making a decision on going and hiring somebody. So what are the 3 steps that I'm talking about? Well, the first thing is we start what we call the PI minimizer technique. If you're not familiar with what that is, PI minimizer simply means personal identification minimizing. You have a lot of details on your credit report that initiates with your first and last name or middle initial. You have a series of addresses, phone numbers, social security details, some of the aliases that you use, your spouse, or even the place that you work. When it comes to those type of details, they're almost always compromised. So the initial steps should always be addressing those things prior to moving on to the negative items. And the reason I tell you this with confidence and conviction is because I know for a fact that when you challenge those first, everything else that comes after that is highly questionable. And the reason I say this is because if you were to challenge those personal identifiers and the credit reporting agencies reply with confirming the removal of some of those personal details, isn't it true that the rest of the credit details could be in jeopardy? Isn't it true that the rest of the credit details can potentially comprise of other people's data, which have now been easily proved to be compromised? And if that's the case, this is what we call step number 2, which is item anchoring. Simple. You take the information the credit bureaus gave you back as a response by removing some of the personal details, and you're asking the credit reporting agencies to potentially look into the other accounts as you believe that they may have been affiliated with names that were recently removed and confirmed of removal by them. Once you do so, and if they respond positively, you'll have some items removed. If they fail to respond positively, and as the third strategy is what we call a 15-day power surge. This is where you contact the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, ask them for help, and you have evidence and proof that there is a compromise in your credit profile. And by doing so, you're actually approaching the credit system in an identity theft strategy, however ethically this time, as you're simply questioning them and you're not making bogus claims in your affidavit that can potentially end you in prison. So when you do it this way, there's a lot more safety and guarantee that you're actually getting things done ethically. And by implementing this type of strategy, you're actually ensuring long-term success. So that is my strategy when it comes to credit sweep. Obviously, there's a lot more to that. And this is why the Ultimate Personal Credit Mastery actually deep dives into this whole philosophy. You can actually check out the course in the description of this video. And if you want to learn more about the credit sweep methodology, check out the video in the description as well as the comment section to learn more. So if you guys enjoyed this, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and you've been watching me for a while, consider subscribing and turning the notifications on to all so that every time there's new videos like these, you will be first to know. With that said, this is your guide and mentor. Hoping you guys are staying safe and sound. Bye for now.